scheduled board meeting for Clark County Public Schools. We're going to all stand and take a moment of silence and then have the Pledge of Allegiance. The pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the first order of business will be a review of the agenda and adoption. Are there any changes? I know of one. Do you all have any changes you want to make? Okay. I'd like to do two things. The first is just add a brief conversation about our weekend we just did somewhere, maybe under internal board business. Just talk about after you talk, just briefly talk about our experience over the weekend at the leadership conference. And then under finance and human resource update, we need to add an agenda item to consider approval of resolution for authorization of bond issuance. Mr. R.J. Palmer will talk to us about that. Does anyone have anything else or any concerns about those two agenda items? If not, I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Simpkins,
Second.
second by Mr. Bennett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. The agenda is adopted on a vote of 5-0. Our 4-0. Ms. Ritchie is absent. Thank you. So then our second is to consider approval of minutes for June 4th, 2024 special meeting, June 20th, 2024 work session, and June 25th, 2024 regular meeting. Do we have any conversation?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and move to accept, approve the minutes.
All right, and having a motion by Mr. Bennett to accept approval of those minutes.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Dorsey. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Okay. We will now hand it over for public school recognitions. I'm not sure, is it Ms. Biffen or who is going to do the public school recognitions?
Thanks, Ms. Bush.
Ms. Bush.
There she is.
She's hiding out. What an entrance. That was a little surprise and delight to the folks out there.
It's bigger than she is.
Okay. And if I break it, I know I was going to be.
Could ask for help.
I feel like I'm going to help you. That's hard. Okay. Thank you very much for this evening to help us celebrate two young men. We are here to talk about Elijah Coleman from Montgomery County and our own Clark County, Bryce Offrey, who partnered together to win the world's finals title at Hartwell Lake in South Carolina. So if you'll bear with me for just a second, I want to tell you about this tournament. So that was heavy. There were 437 teams, 1,311 participants. Each high school team has 2 high school anglers and their boat captain in the boat. This event, which featured anglers not from just North America, but from around the world, competed throughout a 4-day event. When the scales closed on Friday evening, the 10 national championship finalists all qualified to be in the first 10 that were in the competition on Saturday for this lovely monstrosity. And 10 of the semi-world finalists, that means 2 from every state, also got to participate on Saturday. So that's a total of 31 teams. So the Kentucky team, our 2 wonderful Mr. Coleman and Mr. Offrey, had 13 pounds, I'm getting goosebumps, as they stepped onto the stage for their last weigh-in. They stayed that way throughout the day. And all of a sudden, we had another team come up, and we're a little leery of them, I kind of think. And guess what? They fell short by 2 ounces. Not pounds, but ounces. So that left our wonderful Kentucky team as the 2024 champions. They also received over $200,000 worth of scholarships as a total to be awarded to the boys when they decide what university they would like to attend from these scholarships. This evening, please help me in congratulating the 2024 High School World Fishing Champions, Mr. Coleman and Mr. Alfrey.
Get in the middle. You are here. We're going to sorry.
I think you need to hold it above your head.
We'll just go like that.
We'll do this.
We'll just go, see, there we go. Go Cards. As long as we go Cards. Sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot for a minute. You were already talking. I apologize. Thanks, guys. We're just gonna leave this up there the whole time?
Oh, no, that's going to my office. I carry it. It's yours, sweetheart. The big ball that stays is on my office too, if you want it back. I was gonna try to keep that.
I saw you, I saw you.
I was. It was really kind of heavy. Okay. And this evening, I would like to introduce to you the new director of BCTC Winchester Clark County campus. She is a resident of Central Kentucky for nearly 2 decades. Ms. McFall leverages her experience and leadership to make a positive impact in higher education and workforce development, ensuring students will be well prepared for their professional journeys. Ms. Renee began her decade of dedication in higher education and the workforce, currently serving as the Winchester Campus Director at Bluegrass Community and Technical College. Prior to this role, Ms. Renee served Eastern Kentucky University for 5 years, mostly as the Assistant Director of Employer Relation and Outreach. With a strong economic foundation, including a bachelor's degree in Child Family Studies, a master's in Public Administration, and a graduate certificate in Community Development, Ms. Renee combines all her knowledge and hands-on experience. Her career journey reflects a passion for creating impactful connections between students, alumni, and employers to enhance career opportunities and readiness. Clark County Public Schools is very excited to partner with BCTC for our high school students to excel to greatness in their futures. Please help me in a very warm welcome for the first time to Clark County Public Schools Board meeting, the new campus director, Ms. Renee McFall.
All the same. If you want, you can either say go Cards. I know you've got lots of people coming there, but you're at the Clark County Board meeting. Thank you for being there.
Go Cards. At this time, we would like to introduce the president of BCTC, Mr. Greg Finney, for an update on BCTC, and also Ms. McFall, if she would like to join. Thank you.
I have no trophy to carry out.
You're carrying enough accomplishments, buddy.
Well, I'm really happy to be here this evening for 2 reasons. One is because I'm in my 27th year with this college. And I have been there this long because I love our mission. And I believe in our mission. And K through 12, we're not just focused on college. K through 12 is an important part of our mission. And with that, I have to say that Clark County has always been a really good partner. But I'm going to do a little bit of bragging. Under Superintendent Howard, it's gone to a new level. And the data shows that. So I just want to say thank you for your leadership, as well as the team and how well that you support them. we've seen a significant difference. I'm going to share a little bit of data with you. I know sometimes that's a little boring, but I want to share a few details. So we have seen overall at our college, we have seen over a 13% increase this last year. For this fall, right now, as of today, we're at 11.1. So we'll see where we end up, but we're very optimistic that we're going to be in the positive because of where we're at right now. Winchester is a big part of that, and it comes from a lot of hard work. And so that's the role that Renee is stepping into, but also other individuals that have been on that campus for a long time and that have made a difference in the community partnerships. And what I learned a long time ago is that the community college alone can only do so much. But the more that we partner with our communities, and we serve 14 counties, the more that we partner with our communities, the stronger our institution is. And Winchester has always been Exhibit A of that. So I thank all of you, and I thank you for all that you have done. Our enrollment continues at this campus to grow. Our dual credit efforts, which save students anywhere between $22,000 and $40,000 if they start and complete with us for those first 2 years. I mean, that is significant. It often means a lot more to mom and dad than it does the students, but usually if I relate it to a vehicle or something like that, the students' eyes will open up as far as how much that they can save. But our overall enrollment last year, unduplicated, was almost 17,000. And I share that just to demonstrate the work that we do together, and that's with our 14 counties. So I'm not going to ramble on forever because I know you have a lot of important things to cover, but I can't say enough how much community partnerships matter and how much leadership matters. And so I'm going to say it one more time, we are so appreciative for your leadership. And in the short amount of time, in the grand scheme, in the short amount of time that you've been here, the difference has been night and day. And it was good before, but it is excellent now. And so I thank you all for supporting him, and I thank you what you continue to do, and I thank your team. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other recognitions as that?
That sums it up for now.
Okay.
More to come next month.
More than come next month. Okay. All right. And Ms. Smith is headed towards to see if there's any public comments, and there are none. So, Ms. Smith, one of the speakers, went to the wrong school and should be on their way.
Okay.
So they might be at the door. Miss Stanley is who, so she went to the wrong place, so she'll be here soon. So now I'd like to move on and acknowledge Clark County Public School accreditation by Miss Kelly Fithen and her team.
Good evening. I'm very excited tonight to discuss our accreditation process with you all, and I'm going to introduce the Senior Director of the Mid-Atlantic Region for Cognia, Ms. Ketsy Fields.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. It's been a long time since I've been in front of a board before, so I'm a little bit nervous, that's why. Just like the gentleman said before, I work for Cognia, and we'll go through, oh, they already have it up. But I work for them because I like their mission and vision, and you'll see that in a minute. It's all about schools and helping schools get better. So we're going to not spend a lot of time today on the report because I understand you've had that report for quite some time. You've already digested and things like that. I'm just going to go through a little bit about who we are, what we do, and why it's important for Clark County Schools to be involved. And I'm stealing his thunder. He's already left, but he talked about leadership. You all did your review last year, 23-24. I actually went back and looked on my calendar. I met with Mr. Howard and Ms. Fithen in 2022 in November. So they were already on it, thinking ahead. They just started. Was that your all's first year?
First 2 months.
First 2 months. So they were on it. They knew this was coming. They were all about continuous improvement, and they wanted to get started. And wow, did they do a phenomenal job. So there's Cognia, who we are. That's our mission and vision, and that's why I work for them, because it's all about being a trusted partner, working with you all to improve outcomes for kids. That's what it's all about. Who are we? When you say you're accredited by Cognia, that accreditation is worldwide. You can see up there how many countries. Actually, that's 94. So it's not just saying we're accredited with Kentucky. we're accredited worldwide. It's recognized worldwide. And then, you can't see that, I understand that, but I want to kind of go back and explain. A lot of people say, well, we're accredited with Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, SACS. We are SACS. There are 6 regionally accredited organizations in the United States. Cognia is the parent company for 3 of those 6. So Southern Association, I think North Central, Northwest, all fall under Cognia. So when you hear the term SACS or Southern Association, we're their parent company. So we are now Cognia, and that started back in 2019, I think. So that is the name that we go by. So a little bit about the report that you've already looked at. You can go ahead to the next slide. The assurances are just basic yes or no statements that you all are expected to meet. All good organizations are going to meet them. You all did that. The second part of your report, evaluator of the institution analysis. You all did a lot of data analysis on the learning environment for your students, on your stakeholder feedback, on student performance. All of that is part of our process that you look at. Our process is every 6 years, but I'm going to talk about this in just a second. It's an every year process. You don't just look at data every 6 years. You look at your student achievement data every year. You look at stakeholder feedback every year, things like that. Then we have 30 standards, and I guarantee you a lot of the people in this room are very familiar with those 30 standards because they're the foundation. They're research-based standards that are what every high-quality institution should have. And again, we don't want you looking at those 30 standards every 6 years. We want you looking at those 30 standards every year. And then part of the report is insights from the review. That's when the lead evaluator takes all this data and shares some insights, and that's in your report. Then they give you a summary of findings, and that includes your noteworthy practices and your improvement priorities. And then your accreditation status, your IEQ, or your Index of Educational Quality, and then it gives you some next steps. So that's what that report that you've already had and looked at and digested is all about. So I just want to kind of go through very quickly some of those the noteworthy practices and your improvement priorities. Your noteworthy practices are what are you doing really well? And if you read that first statement, learners' well-being is at the heart. And I think that is one, if I want to have a noteworthy practice, that's one to have. And you can notice on that it kind of incorporates more than one standard, but that standard too is basically that you all have the students at the heart of all decisions that you make. And that's something to be very proud of because that's not always the case in institutions, but here that was very, very evident. So then we go into areas of improvement. And at Cognia, we kind of have the saying, every institution can get better. That's the goal of continuous improvement. They're always striving to get better. So in our process, everyone has to have an improvement priority. Normally, we say 3 to 5. So you all have 3 that you all have already addressed here. And it talks about a formal structure of developing positive relationships. That key is a formal structure. If you go back to your noteworthy practice, you have the student's best interest at heart. You're making decisions on the students. We need to formalize that so that every student feels like they have an advocate and that someone that they know is going to bat for them in their building. And you can see those standards kind of linked together again, but that standard 4 is about that formal structure. The other 2 are, again, working on that environment for students to make sure they're in the best place that they can be, that they have student choice, student voice, and they take agency of their learning, and then that you all support them both academically and non-academically. Another area is for standard 3 and 7, and this is going to deal with that continuous improvement process that I talked about. You're never finished. This is a continuous cycle of always striving to get better, and that's our goal. We'll do this every 6 years, but we ask you to do this every year kind of internally by continuing to look at these areas of growth. And this one talks about a consistent process for gathering feedback from your stakeholders. And this was last year's report. I know you're already doing things on that, and Kelly's going to talk about that in just a minute. And the last area is a process for using walkthrough data to provide that positive feedback to staff, to monitor progress. Again, a continuous improvement cycle. And that's what Standard 12 is the main one under this area improvement, but those 19 and 21 kind of fall under that category of, you know, making that environment that's all-inclusive for students, making that environment hold high expectations for every student. That's what you're working toward. And again, you're probably never going to reach that. It's that continuous improvement. So those are your 3 areas of improvement. Your IEQ score, I am not a psychometrician, I cannot tell you how that score comes about, but it comes about by the rating of the standards. It comes about by those analysis that you did on stakeholder feedback, student achievement, and learning environment, and then some other things, and it comes up with a score. So it's 100 to 400, 316 is above the norm. You're meeting our standards, you're doing an excellent job. So well that I think it's you, it's going to be at our conference this year to be part of a roundtable on this process and helping other schools that are going to do it next year, telling them what they did, how they did it, because they did such a great job. So back to leadership. So again, congratulations. So the next
High
step.
five for Ms. Finley.
Yeah, because she took the leadership role, but it is a team effort. Yeah. And the next steps, she's going to talk about that, but we have a continuous improvement process that you all have heard me say that over and over and over. And it's a continuous improvement cycle. Ours is on the next slide. We don't say that you have to use our process, but when you look at that process, you do all those things. However, you all make it unique to Clark County, that's what we ask that you continue to do, is continue to strive to make things better for your kids, which you all do. And so I'm going to turn it back here because I know she's already been working on, you all have already been working on those areas of improvement.
I do want to say that it is very much a team effort in all of this. I can never do the work by myself, so it is very much all of these people sitting here, the academic team, all the administrators, so it's really everyone working together because you cannot do it alone at all. I also want to also reiterate that this process is ongoing. We will continually strive to get better, improve all of our structures that we have in place. We have put several initiatives in place this past school year. So a lot of the things that it said that we needed to work on, we put those structures into place this year, but we have to give them time to improve. We have to give the cycle just time to put things in place so that we can have the data and we can have that consistency with, you know, being able to look back and see what are areas of strength, our areas for growth, and then be able to make decisions based on that. I'll quote Mr. Howard, and he says that greatness is a journey, it's not a destination, so we truly are a journey on our way to greatness, and we are putting several of those things that Ms. Ketsy Fields mentioned earlier about our areas for improvement. The first one that they had talked about, the formal structure for positive relationships. We have built in MTSS structures district-wide with a handbook for clear expectations to follow. We are proud to have a grant that puts MTSS interventionists in each of our schools. So we're providing that ongoing support for our students and to build those relationships. We are working on an elementary at-risk program to better meet the needs of all of our students, a BAR program for grades 7 through 9, and I could continually go on and on about a lot of the things that we are putting in place to meet the needs of our students, not only academically, but social emotionally, so that we're meeting all of their needs. The other two improvement areas, we're talking about consistent processes for evaluation, gathering data, stakeholder feedback. We put those initiatives in place this year, so we are just looking for time to be able to administer those walkthroughs again this school year, administer surveys to parents, community members, our staff members, and then be able to compare that data. So a lot of initiatives and growth areas we are focusing on. We've put a lot of things in place, so we're excited to continue the process this school year and then be able to look at the data from last year to this year and then continue on our journey to greatness here in Clark County Public Schools. So at this time, we would like to award all of our schools their accreditation status. So we're going to go ahead, if you all don't care to help me with this. And we'll ask that each school, when called, to come up so that we can give those awards. Mr. Howard, if you want to come up here with us. So that's the district one. All right, so we have the Clark County Preschool. If Ms. Jill Blaine will come up first, Clark County Preschool.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah, well, one at a time and then all together. Lots of pictures.
Justice Elementary School.
I was trying to do that.
Okay, Shear Elementary, Miss Diana Jackson. Stroud Station Elementary, Miss Anitria Costin.
Pretty good timeline right there.
Baker Intermediate, Mr. Josh Mounts.
Now, sir,
Sir, thank you, Ms. Fields.
put this up.
She used to be the principal up at Baker. Clark Middle.
And George Rogers Clark High School, Mr. Luke Toy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much. We have two other schools, but we'll just hold on to those.
And then we also have one for the district, so I want to make sure that you all get that.
Oh, we'll give this over here. Here we go. Congratulations.
That's definitely worth the go cards,
Hey,
right?
go Cards!
And I just want to say, as a system, that means that they're holding all their schools accountable, and so that accreditation process that they do at the system level works with the schools on that. So we're very honored and proud to have them as a member, especially since it's my hometown. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, our next agenda item is to acknowledge CCPS Innovation Center name update by Ms. Kelly Fitton.
As soon as the slides pop up there, we will go through kind of a history of where we are until tonight, to this point, so everybody can make sure we're aware of the progression and where we're at. So we started on this journey in April, and this is where we set out the Innovation Center name, and we posted that to get stakeholder input and feedback. We received responses that either fell into two categories. So the two categories were honoring a specific person in our community or one that embodied creativity and innovation. So those were the two routes that we went with. So we came back in June and brought the survey results back, and we decided we were going to go to round 2. So that way we could really see which avenue that we wanted to go in. Because at first, that first survey was just very wide open and just submit some sample items or sample names that you would like for the building to be named after. So when we pushed the survey back out, our results that we brought last to you showed that 83.3% of the people wanted a name that embodied the creativity and innovation of what this building represents. And 16.7% wanted a name that honored a specific person in the Clark County community. So after those results, we started taking all of the names that were submitted that embodied the creativity and innovation and asked people to rank those names. So we're bringing to you tonight the top 5 names that were, that derived from that last survey. And we are now asking at this point to take these 5 names and put those out there for one last survey so that everyone could vote, all stakeholders, and then we would bring to you the top name from this last survey, and then hopefully we could then use that name to name the building. So with your all's blessing, we would then put out one last survey with the 5 names, and that would bring those results to you next month. And then hopefully, we would be able to name the Innovation Center.
I think we all agree that sounds like a good plan. Ms. Ritchie, I don't think Ms. Ritchie made it on, but I think she would agree with that. So,
All right, any questions or?
no, thank you for all your hard work on that, because I know it's not easy but we've got, I'm glad we put that survey out there, because I thought it would have went the other direction. So I'm glad that we got input on it. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart.
Our next agenda item is to consider approval of a contract for speech language services for fiscal year 2024-2025 by Ms. Abby McCormick.
So I first just want to thank the board and also the work of Dr. Parrish and Ms. Ellis, because currently, knock on wood, we are fully staffed for our speech language pathologists. So that is kind of something we talk to other directors of exceptional children, they're still struggling to find. So this is just a proactive. We want to like to have contracts in case we do see an increase, in case we have any of our speech language pathologists go on leave. That way we continue to provide those services to our students and that they get what they need.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. McCormick? Do I have a motion to approve the contract?
We'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Bennett, and I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Okay. Okay, our next agenda item has to do with the newly formed MTSS Bullying Task Force work. Myself and Ms. Jennifer Simpkins attended a gathering of school principals from across, and assistant principals and counselors from across the district, and talked about bullying, what it looks like in the schools. We broke it down into elementary, and Baker was there for both, and then the junior high school. And Ms. Fithen already talked about she talked about several of the initiatives that were talked about in that. But really what came out of it is the need for ongoing education and for the community and parents to understand what bullying is. And so Mr. Howard gave each of the principals a directive to come up with a plan for the school year and bring that back, and then we'll meet again and talk and see how things are going. So that's just kind of a summary. Ms. Simpkins, did you have anything you wanted to add to that? So it was a very, very good conversation, and I think it is an issue that, as a parent, sometimes we think our child's being bullied when really it's more about relationships, how to deal with someone, you're upset with your friend, and so that's what our counselors and teachers and principals face every day. But bullying does exist. It's there, but it's a fairly small number compared to kids needing to learn relationships and getting along with each other. But I do appreciate being a part of that task force with our leadership across the district. So, okay. Our next agenda item, I'm going to ask Ms. Rachel Stanley from New Vista to discuss one of those programs called Sources of Strength, which we currently have implemented at Campbell Junior High. So, welcome, Ms. Stanley.
Thank you. Before we begin, I do have some Sources of Strength pamphlets for you all to look at. And here are some packets that we'll go over in a minute once we finish the presentation. Can you all hear me all right?
Yes. Thank you.
So like Ms. Paul said, I am Rachel Stanley. I am a prevention specialist with New Vista's Prevention Center. We focus on substance and suicide prevention programs. We are a nonprofit, we're grant funded, and I did present on this topic at the Clark Mental Health Task Force. And through that task force, I actually helped with the Equity Coalition Community Conversations last Friday. I was a table host. I recognize a few of your faces, so hello again. Sources of strength. There are two big trainings that come with sources of strength. There's the adult advisor, about a 3-hour training, and then there's the peer leader, 4-hour training. Sorry, let me see. Yep, okay. So first I want to talk about the brief history, but before we begin, I want to explain maybe why I'm coming to talk with you about sources of strength. We are aware that there has been a new requirement of the state to talk about suicide prevention in the schools with our students, and it needs to be evidence-based. Sources of Strength is a K through 12 evidence-based gold standard SAMHSA program. So we're here to talk to you a little bit more about this program and why it is gold standard, kind of what our practices are, what our models are. So to begin, this is Mark LeMurray. Sorry, to go back one slide. Yes, this is the founder of Sources of Strength. He founded Sources in 1998, and he started the idea when he was working in the juvenile justice as head of the Police Youth Bureau in North Dakota. And he worked with these teenagers and families. And over the span of 3 years, he realized that 30 of these teenagers had passed away. A lot of them from drunk driving, some of them from other instances, but most of them did pass by suicide. And so he's like, why is this happening? What is the problem? He came away with that experience and realized that something needs to be done to get ahead of these deaths. What can we do instead of reacting? Go more into a preventative mindset. So the first experiment with Sources of Strength happened in the Dakotas with the Native American tribe up there. And they evaluated and researched and did this program with this trial group and saw incredible results. As I said, Sources of Strength, it is one of the most evaluated and widely disseminated prevention programs in North America. It also reaches into Canada and those provinces and Australia. We partner with the University of Rochester to observe young people and see how peer-led initiatives make an impact, a lasting impact, rather than adult to peer. Sources of Strength is on the NREPP list, the National Registry of Evidence-Based Programs and Practices, the gold standard. So we will go on to the next slide and discuss some gaps that we saw from traditional prevention programs to Sources of Strength. So the first gap, the next button, we realized that a lot of traditional prevention is risk-focused. So what does this mean? It means that when we typically would ask a group of students to name the risk factors, the warning signs of suicide, a lot of times they could come up with those. They've been taught those. They hear about those. But when we ask, how does someone who is addicted to alcohol get better? How does someone seek help once they find that they are struggling? So there's not a lot of dialogue happening around these conversations. A lot of times when those questions are asked, it's received with silence or confusion or just unsure. So this Sources of Strength model focuses on strengths instead of risks. So now we can go to the next slide. Let's see. So strength-based approach, it provides a mirror to reflect a community or an individual's strength back to themselves. An individual is a survivor, not a victim. And a community is not defined by what it lacks, it's defined by its culture and its connections. So the next gap that we saw is that a lot of traditional prevention focuses on sadness, shock, and trauma. I experienced this as a high schooler when we did a mock car crash when I was in high school. And I was part of the theater group, and a lot of my friends were part of this mock car crash. And it was so realistic. I remember seeing this happening and feeling very afraid of getting behind the wheel, even though I wasn't using substances, because that image was stuck in my head and it made me terrified. And it may not have had the desired effect that the people maybe who created this program were desiring. So these tactics, that while they're emotionally engaging, emotionally reactive for the people who are hearing them, it can sometimes cause unintentional harm. And that's something that Sources is really focused on. So instead of sadness, shock, and trauma, we want to focus on hope, health, and strength. We need to talk about the strengths and how they are protective in our lives. So the third gap that we saw that was really prevalent is that a lot of suicide prevention traditionally has been adult-driven. We don't see a lot of youth in our suicide prevention programs. It's mainly the adult to peer. Shifting to a peer-led approach, it empowers peer leaders to break down codes of secrecy and silence. A lot of times when students see that someone is struggling, they maybe don't want to be like the tattletale or like rat out about some of their friends or, you know, gossip behind their back. So this peer-led approach, it shows that students, when they have that initiative, when they have that opportunity to be leaders for their peers, for their friends, they're more likely to refer those people they know are struggling to help. And this also focuses on establishing a strong connection to mentors and adult leaders as well. All right, next slide. So there was a trial, a cluster randomized control trial for a group of students. Sources of strength, the model is that we select those who have the most influence within their peer social groups. Instead of picking the gifted students or picking a certain demographic of students, we select those who have the most influence, not necessarily the best grades or the best, you know, athletic performance, but those who have the most influence, who are more likely to talk to people and get them motivated, get them engaged, get them excited about things. In that way, we are able to reach every corner of the school through all of these different social peer groups and make them peer leaders who receive the message of sources of strength and give it out to the school. From this model, we realized, well, these are some of the results that we saw. For peer leaders, they had an increased healthy coping attitudes and norms methods. They had more connections to adults. They were 4 times more likely to refer their peers to other adults. And we had the largest gains for those who were least connected to healthy peer leaders. Not only did it positively impact the peer leaders, the sources of strength model also positively impacts the entire school population. We saw a culture shift. The entire culture of the school's population was kind of had a mind shift for help seeking, knowing how to look for help, how to help those that they saw were struggling, and accepting that help. There was an increased perception that adults are here to help. They're not here to punish us, they're not here to judge us, they are here to help us. And we saw the largest gains for students with a history of past suicide attempts. All right, next slide. This is the sources of strength wheel. There are 8 aspects to the sources of strength wheel. These are the 8 sources of strength. We have family support, positive friends, mentors, healthy activities, generosity, spirituality, physical and mental health. So I'll clarify a bit more about 2 of these things. So for generosity, research has shown that when we give back to others, when we put ourselves out there and do something for someone else, we do feel better about ourselves. It gives us a sense of empowerment. So that's why that is up there. For spirituality, that spirituality doesn't necessarily mean religion. It also means believing in something bigger than ourselves. I know when I go on a walk, I look around, there's a big sky, there's big trees. It makes me feel a sense of peace, a sense of comfort that the problems I have maybe aren't as big as I think they are. And spirituality can be found in all sorts of things. So to the next slide, we will look a little bit more into a few of these, and I want to have some kind of positive engagement with you all. Sources of strength is very fun, it's playful, it engages the students and the adults. So when I say positive friend, the term positive friend, what are some aspects of a positive friend that come to mind? Anybody can shout it out.
Loyal.
Loyal? Yeah. What else?
Encouraging.
Encouraging. They listen? Maybe one more? Dependable. Awesome, wonderful. And does someone have an example of a positive friend in their life who has demonstrated these in some way? I know for me, I have a friend, her name is Hannah, and we share a passion for the outdoors. So we bond using physical activities, and we're actually gonna go on a backpacking trip in a few days. And she's a positive friend because she listens, she's loyal, and we've been through there with each other for a very long time. So the next part of the wheel we're gonna look at, healthy activities. What are some healthy activities, things that we do to unwind, things we leave work to just calm down, reset, and do something that we enjoy? What's a habit that we have that we like to do that helps us find ourselves?
Reading.
Reading.
Walking.
Walking. And that,
Mowing.
what was it?
Mowing.
Mowing. And both of those can tie into the physical health aspect too.
Here's how I go, buddy.
So as we see, not all of these parts of the wheel are mutually exclusive. They can kind of lean into the other, and that's totally okay. Before we go to the next slide, I want to ask, so can we agree that not one part of this wheel is more important than any of the others? Okay, can we agree that if we are leaning only on one part of that wheel, we might not get the help that we need, or it might not be as effective to help someone who is struggling? We just have one part of that wheel? Yeah. So I like to use this analogy to think of a net. If you tie off a net on one corner, picture like an acrobat walking on a tightrope. If you tie off one net, that's not going to be effective at all for them if they fall. Now if you tie it off on two ends, opposite ends, it still might help a little bit, but they're not going to be supported very well at all. Now imagine if 8 ends of that net are tied off underneath that acrobat. That's definitely going to keep them safe. I think that's a great way to think of this, this wheel, the Sources of Strength wheel. The more that we have, the more we're able to have that resilience and be able to protect ourselves whenever we face hard times. And that's why this is a universal evidence-based program, because it touches everyone, not just those who are struggling or those who are at risk, but everybody, because we all have hard times. We're all going to go through life and struggle at some point. And there is a video that we can watch in the next slide. I don't know if it'll play, but we can see. Yeah, there should be. Oh, I think I hear something. Yeah, that's good.
We are a group of diverse students and adults from many different courses. From many different courses and cultures, our school and we believe that life comes up and down, that all of us can be good times and tough times.
probably good. I don't know.
Yep. And we can share this out too with
Yeah.
the board and also the principals, and that way they can go back over and,
Sure,
because I
yeah.
think, I've seen this before and it's very powerful.
But it's yeah.
But I think you need to be able to hear it, yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. So something that they did say in there is that we teach kids what to do when life gets tough before it gets tough. So that's kind of the big theme for sources of strength. Okay, so we go back to the slide. We'll power through these next few ones. So these are just some ideas of what to do for campaigns for peer leaders. You could do presentations. You saw on there, Pie Your Mentor. There's wall displays, and you can keep going through. There's some examples of photos on there. Yep. What's your strength? Dress like your mentor day. A color run with the community. And we will skip the bridge analogy. Basically, it's just saying that the Brooklyn Bridge wasn't built in a day. It takes a while to build foundation. And just like suicide prevention, any kind of prevention, it takes a while before we start to see progress, but it's just as important. So thank you all. And I know I passed out the different sheets that you have here. So the first one is the Adult Advisor Letter of Commitment. So that just kind of explains what is expected of an adult advisor. They are within the schools. There's also the letter of agreement with the school or the district. And the last one is sort of our list, our checklist to see if the school is prepared for this program. Do you all have any questions for me?
The only question I have is, do you have some contact information that the principals wanted to get in touch
Yes.
with you individually? I think it'd be good to have some of those conversations.
Yes.
I think, I saw
So,
some smiles back there, so I think I'm on the right track.
so my contact was on the last slide. It's, you can talk to me, I have my cards, but I could just pass my cards around. How about that?
That sounds great.
I will do that. Thank you all very much.
Thank you for your community partnership. New Vista is a big part of our school system, so thank you.
Completely
Of course,
agree.
thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. Oh, okay, great. All right, I'm gonna have Mr. Snell come up and talk about bus driver's report of student conduct form.
Yeah, the only change we made to the form was to put a place on there for a driver to request a conference with a principal if they needed one that complies with new House Bill 446.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Snell about this student conduct form? Anyone want to make a motion to approve the change to the report of student conduct form?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Ms. Simpkins, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Dorsey seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. And I don't know if Ashley, did you vote?
I think she is not on currently. I
She's
think
not?
She's not feeling well.
I see A on there, that's why I just wanted to be sure.
Gotcha.
So, okay, so 4-0, all right. Right, all right, Mr. Snell, you're gonna talk about now the transportation procedures manual, so we can approve it?
Yep. We had 3 changes to the manual. Page 5, we removed substitute drivers not being eligible for extracurricular trip rotation. By getting rid of that, that allows our coaches who are substitute drivers in some cases, they will be able to drive their team to games and matches and whatnot. Page 21, we made 2 changes. The medical examination used to be required every year. The law changed to where it's required every other year now. So we made that change in there. The doctor can still require it every year if they want to, if they feel it's necessary. And also on page 21, we removed if an employee chooses to be examined by someone else, they pay for the exam. By law, all the OT physicals need to be by our doctor, the board pays, and quite honestly, that's what's safest for our kids.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Snell? Okay. Anyone want to make a motion to approve the transportation procedures manual?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Bennett, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dorsey, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Okay. We will now consider approval of One Go MOU by Mr. Luke Toy.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to kind of give you an overview of what One Goal is to see what you're considering tonight. So what I've done is I prepared some slides for you that you can take a look at some of the stuff at your leisure if you want to. If you have questions, feel free to ask. So I want to kind of go through what One Goal even is. It's a partnership that we've had for the last 3 years. We started in 2022. And One Goal, what they do is they partner with districts with low-income communities to ensure post-secondary planning, preparation, and support aren't just treated as extracurricular activities. So they really help us have an intentional focus on post-secondary planning. So in the presentation, I've included the rubric, which is kind of the things that they do. So you hear the term One Goal, and you think there's one goal to this. And really, One Goal never says this, but the goal here is post-secondary planning, post-secondary readiness, which is a huge focus for us at GOC. So there are 7 different areas that One Goal helps us focus on at the high school. The first of those is the shared post-secondary vision, plan, and framework. 2 is the post-secondary data systems and structures, continuous improvement cycles, adult capacity in our building, institutional partnerships, student supports, and advising and programming, and aligned human and financial capital. So I kind of give you a brief history of kind of where we've been the last couple of years and kind of where we intend to go with it and what our hopes are for the future. So you can head to the next one, Mr. Case. Thank you. So the last couple of years we've had we did a general overview of the One Goal focus areas, which are those 7 of those with our staff, with our leadership staff. We reviewed a scope and sequence of One Goal. We did some analytics on the current post-secondary landscape. Where are kids wanting to go to college? What are the opportunities for them that are kind of local here, as well as outside of the state and outside of Kentucky. And then we did a huge data dive into post-secondary culture. And that is how is advising going in our building? What are our teachers saying about their preparedness for talking with kids about what they're doing after high school? So we dug into these pretty deep with One Goal this year. And we've got some great feedback from them. So with their feedback and their plans, we develop kind of these subunit plans from there to kind of help us achieve those. So we have 3 main focuses, and I'll talk to you about what those are here in just a second after we talk about some of those subgroups in the next slide. So the subgroup planning we identified some deficits that we had in both post-secondary advising and even adult capacity within our building. So we had subgroup planning with our advisors, with business and community engagements, and we had subgroups that were focused on early college access within the building. So this year, kind of the main focus that we had, and like I said, One Goal's been a partnership of ours for about the last 3 years, but with the leadership changes and things at the high school, we kind of took a step back just to reanalyze how everything was. So we focused really hard on some internal processes that we had this year in building capacity in our counseling staff and our leadership within the building. So what we found is there are, in those 7 areas, there's on that post-secondary rubric that's there, you can take a look at, there's a couple different avenues of analyzing kind of where we are. So within those 7, the first, kind of the beginning stage, we have a practicing stage and then a persistence stage. So the number 1, the post-secondary vision, we assessed this year was practicing. Our post-secondary structures and data systems were practicing. Same thing for continuous improvement cycles. Our adult capacity in the building was beginning and practicing, so this is a focus area of us upcoming. Institutional partnerships were practicing and persisting. And then student supports and advising, we kind of went back to practicing this year after we did some data dives into what students and teachers in the building were saying. So the next steps for us, the next slide, are we have a One Goal coach that works directly with myself, the leadership team, our counseling staff. So kind of where we're heading from here, we're transitioning to a new coach this year where we're going to re-examine and realign our post-secondary goals and priority metrics for this upcoming year. We're going to strengthen our communication and teamwork between our admin and counselors and our leadership teams, increase focus post-secondary partnerships, development of advising skills in staff through counselor support, and strengthen the ILP process, which is kind of where all this really begins at those ILPs. So our rubric focus, those first 7 that I showed you, I know I didn't spend too much time on them, but our rubric focuses for this year are the shared post-secondary vision. We can't really move on and really get gains in post-secondary readiness if we don't have a collective shared vision within the building. So that is priority number one for us. We're also going to take a look at our post-secondary framework, along with the big one for us is building capacity within the building. So we have a phenomenal counseling staff, and although we have great conversations and we counsel kids to an exceptional level, we have 1,700 students in our building. And although we have some lofty goals on how many times we're going to meet with students this year, specifically targeted with post-secondary readiness, we have to do a better job of building that capacity within the building so that all of our teachers can have those conversations with our kids, which is, in a nutshell, kind of one goal helps us do in the focuses that we have in the upcoming year.
Sounds great.
So we're approving a MOU. Is there a cost associated with it, or is it just a memorandum of understanding? What is it that we're approving?
There is a cost associated with it this year. I believe it's $7,000. It was the last quote they gave.
But I've agreed to cover my budget for this year to
Okay.
continue the work.
Okay, and so make sure I understand. So these are the focus of this program is for the seniors or students who are focusing on going to like post-secondary education, such as a university or does the like BCTC count in that too?
Specifically 2 and 4 year colleges.
Too. Thank you. I knew there was a simpler way to say that. It just wasn't coming out. So, okay. All right. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Toy? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
Yeah. So moved.
All right, approve of Mr. Dorsey. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Bennett. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Okay. Now we are going to consider approval for plumbing change order for the Phoenix Academy renovation in the amount of $29,080.30.
So from MP Kelly, we've got 4 change orders for the Phoenix Academy renovation. 3 are, as you all can see on the paperwork submitted, involve plumbing. Some of the pipes and plumbing was not usable when they started digging and cutting into things. And one of those is to water jet. One of it is some existing lines. One of them is to replace some existing lines. The only one that is not plumbing is related to the doors, and it is to change from a steel lintel to a bond beam above the doors, which was only $2,800. As you can see, again, most of it was involving plumbing, and it's things that really has to be done.
So can you explain a little bit more about the door? Is it the frame or the actual door?
It's above the doors. There, sometimes when they put in new doors.
My guess would be to include the plumbing or electrical inside the wall section above the doorway. With a steel lintel, you can't do that. Like, it has to just stay there. So.
Okay.
And they thought it would look a whole lot better to do it that way.
Okay.
Structurally.
So, Mr. Howard, where does have we already approved this part of the
So,
project?
so this will come out of the contingency.
The contingency.
And we'll knock on something. We've not had very many changes, so we're looking really good with that contingency money. It's already built into the process.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any questions?
No, it's all things that have to be done.
Yes. Yep. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the change order for the Phoenix Academy renovation?
I'll make that motion.
All right. Motion by Mr. Bennett. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Dorsey. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Okay. Mr. Jamie Keene is going to go over the new school handbooks for the 2024-2025 school year.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, they've all been uploaded. All the necessary changes that had to go in those, and they are living documents too. If we need to tweak something from time to time, we can. But yeah, they're all uploaded, and all the principals are here if they have individual questions on those.
Do you all have any questions for the principals or for Mr. King? I took a look at the high school one. It looks very nice. It's very easy to read. So these links will be on the website, Mr. King? Okay. And each school, if I'm not mistaken, has open houses in the next 2-3 weeks.
Yes.
So, okay. We do need to approve the handbooks. Unless anyone has any questions, I'll make a motion to approve the handbooks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bennett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Okay. Okay. Now we'll have Ms. Ellis come up and talk to us about approval to update 3.125 and 03.225, and this is the first reading of these policies.
Good evening, everyone. So we are requesting to update both the certified and classified expense reimbursement policies. The state just changed their meal per diem rates, and we try to stay in line with whatever the state is doing. So we are changing those rates to match those, and then we're also adding the caveat that sometimes our people travel to areas that far exceed even those meal per diem rates. And so if their expenditure is allowable in whatever grant or funding source that they have, that if it's allowable, they can keep their receipt and be reimbursed for a higher amount from the meal per diem. So that would have to be supervisor approved and so on with the funding source that would go with.
So this is the first reading of this policy, so it'll be brought back next. So do we need to approve the first reading? So I need a motion to approve the first reading of the policy 0.3125 and 0.3.225. I'll make that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Simpkins. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Okay. So this next item is the consider approval of the resolution for authorization of bond issuance.
So we are asking that the board approves a resolution for reimbursement of the temporary advances we made on our capital funds. I'm going to let Mr. Palmer explain this in more detail because it's a new type of financing that districts are allowed to have.
So you have two resolutions in front of you tonight. The first resolution is to authorize reimbursement to the district should you have to pay for the purchase of the buses before we have funds from the bond sale. It's basically a tax issue, so it's just to say we can reimburse ourselves from the bond proceeds. That's all that it does.
Now, so you're saying buses that we bought or buses that we're returning?
So we've committed as a board to purchase 12 buses. So
Right.
these are the buses that Mr. Snell has already been given permission to purchase, and we're kind of floating that on general fund right now. And then this is to pay for those.
To pay for those, okay?
The second resolution you have authorizes the actual issuance of the debt to pay for the buses. We're currently scheduled to take bids on that on August the 6th, I believe, and close on August 27th. At that time, you have the funds. So should we have to pay for them prior to the 27th, the reimbursement resolution covers us for that.
Most likely
It probably
It's kind of a
won't.
lead time for buses.
It probably won't, but just to be safe, we wanted to make sure that we passed it so that we're covered, so we don't have any tax issues about reimbursing ourselves from the tax exempt bond proceeds.
Being very, very proactive.
Does anyone have a question for Mr. Palmer? Okay.
Pretty straightforward.
All right, or any questions for Ms. Ellis on this? Okay. So we need to make a motion to approve the resolution for authorization of bond issuance. Is that all I'm supposed to say? Is there anything else I'm supposed to say in that?
You just have to do them separate, so do that one first and then the second one.
Oh, okay, so resolution 1 and resolution 2, or?
Does that work for you?
Yeah, one to issue the bond and one for the temporary reimbursement.
Two different resolutions.
One for the what?
The one that's stated on the agenda for temporary advances, that's a separate motion, and then a new motion is the addition to the agenda with the issuance of the bond. Resolution for the issuance of the bond.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the
Resolution.
resolution. Yes.
Oh, yeah, so moved.
All right, Mr. Dorsey makes that motion.
I'll make that quick.
I'll say.
Second by Mr. Bennett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0.
And then motion to approve the issuance of the
The resolution.
resolution.
The issuance of the bond.
The resolution for reimbursement of temporary advances for capital expenditures? Or
I
did we
think that's
do
what you just did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the resolution for authorization of issuance of bond.
Of the bond.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I make a motion to approve that resolution. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Ms. Simpkins. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you for explaining that to us. That's highly complicated. So, but I understand it. I appreciate you saying it back in a way that's understandable. It's just the jargon is
If you have
confusing.
any questions at any time, please
Yes.
feel free to call.
Right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, our next agenda item is acknowledgement of monthly CCPS financial update by Ms. Ellis.
So these are the preliminary June numbers. I literally just submitted the AFR right before I walked in the door here. That's why I was sitting in the office and I was trying to get that completed tonight. So we are looking really good for how we have preliminary ended the year. Again, this is subject to change based on the audit that is finalized in November, and we'll bring that data back to you on any changes that may occur. But we have collected receipts, same percentage as we had actually done the time before. Expenditures were a little bit up from that. A lot of that has to do with what you see, this 1.6 million deficit number. We're not really in a deficit, but when you look at just the singular year we're in, we did spend into our beginning balance. That was planned. We had that set aside. That is that 2.3 million that we asked the board to set aside for playgrounds, roof, maintenance expenditures, furniture replacement. That was a very pre-planned use of our beginning balance. So 1.6 million, almost 1.7. We did $1.2 million in playgrounds this year. All of our elementaries have new playgrounds. Baker had gotten a new playground as well at the start, so.
See first on that?
He was first on that. Mr. Mounts is first on that. So we have all brand new playgrounds, so that's fantastic news. We also did a lot of furniture replacement throughout the district that needed to be done. So that's what your almost $1.7 million is. And that was, again, pre-planned. We had 2.3 million set aside and we spent 1.7 on some really needed things in our district. So we're not really deficit in that sense, but when we look at the singular year, it does look like we spent more than we brought in for the year. But again, planned. Taxes, we are right at 100% collection. We're like 70,000 over what we budgeted, so that is fantastic news. We brought in between the 3 different tax groups 70 more than we had planned. So that is great news rolling forward into our budget for the new year. And we will have all of that finalized in numbers when we present the working budget of how that rolled into the new year. We'll present all that data in September in our working budget. But we're looking really nice. Like we've done a good job of pre-planning and staying within our budget. So that is fantastic news. So we're looking forward to the next thing of starting our new year and getting all the kids back, and everybody's got their budgets in place and we're ready to roll forward. So it's exciting. Any questions on the specific financials? I wanted to touch on just some items that are in consent, just in case you all had any questions, since they're not technically discussion, but just touch on them while I'm standing up here. I have in the consents to update the booster procedure document. That's just a few language items that we want to change to be in compliance with Red Book. We had a few things that after we read Red Book and then read our procedure again, were a little not matching on that. So what we striked out and then added were things that we were just trying to make sure we were compliant there. Excuse me. And then I've also submitted a BG5 to close out our energy project. I think it was just last month we did the BG4 for the company side for PSI, and then this is now the BG5 to finalize and close that project out. So I just need approval and signatures to submit that impact pack. Additionally, we had, RDC is requesting student fees. They have an advanced drama class, and there's some extra expenditures when it comes to advanced programming like that. So they've asked to be able to charge a $20 fee to help cover those program costs. So any fee charged must be approved by you all first, so we're bringing that to you for approval. So those are the items on the consent agenda. I just wanted you to kind of have an overview of those.
If a child cannot afford the $20 fee, is there any exceptions or?
Yes, so if they cannot afford it, they can still participate. We do not keep any student from participating in the program.
Does anyone have any questions about that? All right, sorry. I need to do that. All right, so that's an acknowledgement. So our next agenda item is to authorize payment of salaries and accounts payable.
Please pay our bills.
Motion to pay the bills?
Okay, Mr. Dorsey, are you making a?
Yeah, motion to pay the bills?
Okay, he's second to pay the bills? Second by Mr. Bennett. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Okay. Now we are in, our next agenda item is to talk of, Mr. Howard is going to talk to us about the KSBA policy updates, the second read, and whatever else he is going to talk to us about.
Sure. So this is the same policies that we reviewed last time. You guys didn't have, I don't think, any questions. The biggest recommendation was that my recommendation was to not allow cannabis distribution, even if it's medical. I think that was the big policy that we talked about. And I was, in working with KDC and CKEC, I think almost 100% of the districts around us are taking the same stance. So I promise you, I would ask some other people, and they said on the survey, it's fairly resounding. So I would say to approve them. My recommendation would be to approve them as read the first time.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the policies we reviewed last time?
We went through those pretty well.
We did. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the 2024 policy updates for the second read?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Mr. Bennett, can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Simpkins. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. All right, superintendent's report.
Do you guys want to give an update on the conference as well?
Oh, yeah.
Well, one thing I did learn in the conference, speaking of the medical marijuana, they said they had 32 districts already turned the paperwork in, and only 2 have agreed to it. So, and that's just what they've got.
I wonder if it's like the bigger counties that's doing that too.
They didn't say.
Which counties. Yeah, so Mr. Dorsey wasn't able to join us. He was in other education. So that we heard from, is it Mr. Fletcher? Is that the name of the?
Dr. Fletcher.
Dr. Fletcher is trying to copy Mr. Howard in his dress. He had tennis shoes on with his suit. And I almost took a picture and sent it to you, but because he thought he was being original, and I'm like, dude, you're not here.
Dr. Fletcher, small story. He was my professor at Asbury when I was getting my superintendent certification. So he and I texted, and I was pretty excited when he was named commissioner. And for us, it's nice because, well, I've got his number, so I try not to use that too much. But
Now, he talked to us about kind of the plans that the Kentucky Department of Education is moving forward with, and students definitely come first on that. And then what was really cool, and I don't know if you all agree, but this conference was different. We learned new things. It wasn't the same old things. And it was, I attended a 3-hour leadership piece, and then we all had to do open records and open meetings. That's a new requirement by the from the legislative session. And do you all have anything you want to share?
All I know is I would be walking around and be in one of the sessions, and somebody would come and say, "You're from Clark County. That's a great place. You guys are doing great things." And I mean, that happened again and again. The Ross Tarrant folks in the vendor hall they were just all over us.
Yes, definitely.
So we are doing pretty darn good here. I mean, I didn't know any of these other people, so
Yeah.
I'll take their word for it.
Yeah, I think the other thing, their districts are having a lot of problems, there's lawsuits and this and that, and I think that our board does a good job of communicating with each other, within the, open meeting, open records, act, but we do have good relationships, we do relationship building together, so, some of these other, boards apparently do not. But it wasn't Bowling Green. I had been in Bowling Green in many years, so it was nice to get away and be someplace different. So, but definitely lots of interesting new things, and not just the same old finance and ethics. I mean, this was actual ethics is important, but
yeah, it was interesting, and it's not like driving to Murray,
and
which I've done plenty of times.
I've never done that, but apparently it's further away.
It's a lot further away.
Yeah. So.
It's the most western of the universities.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so a couple of updates on my end. Huge opening day we have planned for our staff, which is on August the 9th at 8 a.m. We're really calling it a Connect celebration because we're all connected in the betterment of our school and of our kids. We're going to serve a breakfast, so you guys are more than welcome to be there. I'm going to craft a fairly decent speech. We're going to give that. We've got a guest speaker coming. We're also going to, it's going to be at the arena. So it's going to be at George Rogers Clark. We're actually partnering, connecting with a bunch of our community partners. So they're going to come and pat all over our teachers. We're going to have giveaways, prizes. I don't want to give up too much, as I've been told I can't. So wait for the surprise and delight that day. It's going to be awesome. I'll probably jump out of bed at 4 that morning. I'll be so fired up. We're also going to launch our new Portrait of a Learner to really connect academics with what we're trying to do with raising great citizens. Skills, dispositions to help our kids thrive after graduation. It's not enough any longer for us to hand them a diploma and get emotional and walk them off the stage. We have to ensure that they're ready to be successful in life, and that diploma has got to mean something. So that's what this work is really anchored with. And again, just a time for us to come together and celebrate us getting our kids back, and probably rolling out a brand new streamline. Am I allowed to say that publicly? We're working on a streamlined vision from all the work that we've made with Keith. I guess he's got my eyes on. We had lots of community input. We've had lots of meetings. We've listened, and we're ready to really share our efforts cumulatively to set the vision for the next 5 years with our strategic planning process. So we'll talk with principals a little bit more about that. We're super pumped. Clearly, I get excited. We're also, Mr. Snell is rolling out some, actually the whole team is rolling out information to start the year. Those things include the new bus app, our writing software, all of our online paperwork. A huge shout out to our team with taking all those green forms that drive parents crazy and sending in the cue cards over and over and over and over. We're streamlining that by going digital, bringing Clark County into the 21st century. We're still in the 21st, right? Did you miss that one? Okay, good. We also have opening day for students will be the 14th. We've got open houses that start at GRC on the 5th. Big shout out. I want to brag on Mr. Toy and his staff for increasing communication. We've gotten a lot of positive responses with that, and they're breaking it down with freshmen, walkthroughs, tours, and then bringing in upperclassmen. You will be able to get your schedule, so if you're paying attention and you're a GRC student, I know I've got 2 at home that have asked their dad to try to sneak schedules in. I've not done that. I'm holding the line. They will also get theirs at open house, and then I think preschool ends us out that next week. So we've got a lot of information out and about in the community. If you have any questions, call us, go to our social medias, go to our media. We're really trying to ramp up inclusivity. We're really working with our parents. We've got to have relationships with our parents. and our guardians and folks who work with us. So finally, without further ado, I would like to publicly share the nominees for the second CCPS Hall of Fame class. So I've had to put a rock on Ed Bertner so he wouldn't say this on the radio. I told him he could say it first thing tomorrow morning, 7 if he wanted. We want to really thank our committee. This is not Dustin Howard's Hall of Fame. This is not an athletic Hall of Fame. These are folks that have exemplified what we want our graduates to do after graduation. And without, I guess I won't further do it because I'll mess up, but these folks will be recognized on August 23rd, so that's our Hall of Fame football night. The entirety of our community, I want to be there to celebrate these folks and to celebrate our kids who are playing Central Hardin, hopefully repay and give them a beat down. It's on the side, all right? So I'm going to read in no particular order. Again, this was a committee. It's a committee that was nominated by the community. Mr. Watkins and his team just oversaw it. So again, this is committee. Okay, you ready now? All right, here we go. So no particular order. Mr. Joe Gillum, Mr. Harvey Spry. Woo! I knew we had one move out there. Betty Curtis, Sandy Stoltz, Jan Horn, Mike Bear Rogers, Martha Miller, Marty Jackson, Paul Columbia, and Jackie McLeod. They will be honored, or someone in their family will be there to honor them on the 23rd at approximately 7 p.m. So, again, they exemplify what we call #greatness. Very excited. That's all I've got before I get emotional about it.
Was there a lot of applications?
There were a ton. Again, I'll say it again. If someone that you wanted to get in did not, they may not even been nominated. So when we roll this back out, be a part of the process.
Yeah.
But I would very much advocate, don't run folks down. Look to the next class. If somebody didn't get any one of them, put them in. We'll also be opening up the committee again, working with Mr. Watkins, so we'll have a fresh eye on looking at who gets in for the next year. So again, thank you to our committee members. We'll be able to formally congratulate them on the football field as well. But
What was Betty's last name?
Curtis, Miss Curtis.
I got overly excited about Miss Stoltz, so.
That's all right.
Miss Stoltz was my academic.
Mike Flynn will give us an update in closed session here a little bit on Miss Curtis.
Oh, okay.
That was good.
I know, if it's the Betty Curtis I'm thinking of.
She drove a
She was
bus for
driver,
50
wasn't she?
years.
She's a bus driver for 50 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How cool.
She was mine.
Okay.
So
All
again,
right.
folks that have poured their heart and soul into Clark County and our kids, we want to celebrate it.
Yeah. Okay.
Without further ado, go Cards.
Thank you, Mr. Howard, for that update. And then we just need approval on the consent agenda items. Does anyone want to?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Mr. Bennett. I need
Second.
a second by Mr. Dorsey. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. And then I need to have a motion to consider adjournment to executive session to discuss property acquisition and discussion of legal matters. If I could have a motion to go into executive session. I'll make that motion. Do we have a second?
I'll take it.
All of us second. All right, Ms. Simpkins second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. We are now in executive session.